Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
WJ, the magic man, a magic moment, he's done it with a magic ride. Chris Johnson, he has done it, the greatest of all time. What a moment here. And away goes Tavi Mac, he's been simply too good.
More life, more trouble, but a man can't try. Step in the same circles which you once called home, searching for something in common. Don't tell me love's all gone. Right and
The young things won the Kanaka Million for Danielle Johnson.
war of sixes, who's wrong, who's right. Corporation, gentrification.
Kia ora, good evening, welcome to Weigh In on a Monday night. Thanks for taking the time to join us here to discuss a huge weekend of racing headlined by the historic win of Chris Johnson. Yes, the Magic Man now wears the crown, win 2,453, recorded so beautifully by trackside and Tony Lee on Saturday. For any normal week, that would be more than enough to get us through one show, or at least half of it, but not for this week. We've had the massive news, Matt Cameron to step away from the saddle, the news that the great career of Tiaka Shark has been retired today, and we have two more bonuses because Emily Bosson is not available tonight. She's away with Opie, Max and the family enjoying their Christmas break, and we hope you have a great Christmas, Emily. Danielle Johnson and the prodigal son of New Zealand Broadcasting, Luke Radich, to return to join us, and some big numbers around Chris Johnson, Danielle. But as we come to you, some pretty big numbers for you too. 44 clear on the premiership, coming up to 5 months. That's pretty hard to believe.
It is, and it's never thought the season would have started off like this. And I'm really looking forward to what the next few months hold, and coming into summer racing, it's going to be awesome.
How are you feeling about it all? Because it's not an easy job to do day in, day out. Are you still feeling pretty refreshed and pretty excited about it all?
Yeah, so happy about my job and love getting up in the mornings and going to work.
One man who used to love getting up in the morning and coming to trackside but found a real job was Luke Radich. Mate, good to have you back, brother.
Thank you.
These days you're a high-flying lawyer. Do you still get much of a chance to follow the races between that and being a father and being busy?
No. That's a problem for the next 58 minutes of this hour, I think, isn't it? But I'll do my best anyway.
Mate, you've never been short of intelligent opinions.
Oh, I have.
That's good.
I have. Here's one unintelligent opinion. All you have to do, Danielle, is ride until you're 56 and you will smash that Chris Johnson
56?
record. Yeah. Just a small matter of
What are the
doing.
chances?
A few years away
What are the
from
chances
that?
you'll be riding at 56?
None whatsoever. Well, I hope. But I'm not riding
at
it.
races.
No.
You'll be a grandmother.
Not on horses, no.
Chris Johnson, later on in the show, an exclusive interview with his good trusted friend Greg O'Connor. That'll be in a second segment coming up later, but he wasn't the only highlight coming out of Awapuni. The feature race there was the $100,000 Challenge Stakes, and the little horse who could keeps on winning. Some call him Frodo, some call him the equine sausage dog, but one thing you can't call him is not an outstanding galloper. Here is Tavi Mac.
Shot at them, little Tavi Mac in front from Call Sign Mav, Kiwi Ida over on the outside, but he's home again, Frodo, and away goes Tavi Mac. He's been simply too good. Call Sign Mav, Kiwi Ida, Amy's still motivated.
People love a racing icon, and Luke Radich, there's a little bit about him, isn't there? There's enough there to like about him. The fact that his record's so good, he's now a Group 2 winner. Very early in his career, every step Alan Sharrock puts in front of him, he takes, and of course, he doesn't look like your typical good horse.
No, when they draw up the pictures of the prototype of the perfect thoroughbred specimen, it's not him, is it? He's, I mean, you almost sort of don't know where to start. I'm not wanting to be unkind because it's kind of endearing, actually, but he's kind of elongated, he's small, he's got a sway back as well, and that's something that always kind of interests me because people seem to be so put off by horses with a bit of a sway back. But they can be good. It doesn't matter in terms of running ability, and more intelligent, knowledgeable people than me have told me that it doesn't matter in terms of their running ability, having a bit of a sway back. Tulloch was famously a sway back. There was a great horse in America called Sway Away who had a sway back. was another good English horse who I can't remember the name of, but she had such a bad sway back they had to have a breastplate on the front so the jockey wouldn't sink back into the middle of her back. And they can still run.
There's just no rules.
No rules, exactly.
I think he first showed us, Danielle, that he could really run in the Foxbridge, which you won on Avantage, but you had to really fight on a genuine Group 1 mare to get past him. I think that's the first time we thought, hey, this isn't a winter galloper, this is a proper horse.
He's going places. Yeah, it took me a while to get past him that day, and he's doggy, like he fights hard and he wants to win.
Have you ever had a sway-backed good horse?
Yong Feng, who I won the Crack Millions on, he had quite a bad sway back. He was a big horse though, but his back was quite... Yeah.
Well, Alan Sharrock was saying that the horse now goes straight into the Telegraph, so he's not going to race again over the next month. That's, of course, 1,200 metres. We're going to mark it for the Telegraph. Luke, it's really hard to bet into this market at the moment because so much is going to depend on what happens in the railway on January the 1st, but it's a pretty good-looking Telegraph.
Well, if they all get there, then it's a terrific race, maybe even the race of the season. I claim to be Levante's biggest fan in the country anyway. I think she's absolutely spectacular. But do we know how set in stone? What's the likelihood if somebody's looking at backing her at $3.20?
Well, she's definitely going to the railway, which we know, and Ken is a conservative trainer about backing horses up and also the long road trip down the line. The other thing too, of course, this is weight for age. So she would be giving away a lot of rating points to other horses even if she won the railway. But Danielle, you've seen a bit of her, and obviously Avantage is a horse you know really well. Levante's got a little bit of X factor.
She's just, her sectionals, like her last 400 metres must just be phenomenal.
Yeah. Her
pickup, and you know, in every race that you watch her in, they're only getting out the last little bit on her, and her pickup is just something else.
If she's there, I think she should be odds on. I think she should be odds on for the railway. I think she should be odds on in just about any race she starts in.
A couple of years ago, though, we had Melody Bell draw wide in a while, and it's hard to say that Levante's better than Melody Bell. When she drew wide and she got too far back, it was nobody's fault, but she ran third. It's a brutal race to come from back in the field. The railway is. The Telegraph, not so much.
Yeah, it so much depends on how the race is run. But look, like I say, I'm such a big fan of hers. I just think trackside should, in any gap, just be playing a montage of every start of hers because every single one is freakish. And you were, we're going to talk, I think, about a good horse that you rode at the trials behind her recently. Yeah, who you really rate as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to riding her Boxing Day. She was, like, obviously, Levante is one of the best horses in New Zealand at the moment, and, you know, and Trivia's won 2 races, so...
She'll be one of the stars of the show coming out of New Year's Day, or Levante. Lots of those other sprinters race on Saturday in the Hallmark, and they'll head to the railway from there. The Telegraph a step further, so maybe cool your heels on that market. But Alan Sharrock saying today Tavi Mac will go there. He thinks the gap suits, and there's the potential, of course, it could rain in Wellington, which wouldn't affect him as much as some others. The Manawatu Cup is a time-honoured race, and Darryl Bradley's name now sits alongside it 4 times. Here's Hunter Pence, who's 8 years old. He's had a few years where he mucked around and was out of form, but Patrick Campbell has got him right back in the zone. You're looking for the horse in the red and the white.
And Hunter Pence is trying to close off on them over on the outside. He's coming now. Hunter Pence ranged up on the inside. Dolcetto fights really hard. They hit it, I couldn't tell you. I don't know here, very close. Hunter Pence, Dolcetto either way. And then we
had a good talk to Patrick today. He said, look, the horse, yeah, he got a bit stale, got out of form. We sent him up to Sam Logan, as we can see the nose margin there. Qualified over the hurdles. And he said he's been doing lots of equestrian work with them, just mucking around and going in circles and keeping him happy and calming him down. And Luke Radich, how often do you see this? These horses who don't win for a long time, they win and then bang, it's all disgelled. Patrick's got the horse where he needs him to be. They win 2 in a row.
Absolutely, and you hit the nail on the head with the key being the schooling over hurdles, and obviously he's taken on a new lease on life with that. The race itself, he's a good horse, and I do kind of, as an old person who's wound up in nostalgia, get a bit of a kick out of seeing those colours being worn by Darryl Bradley to victory in a race, because it reminds me of big bold Avedon from days past and such things like that. He's a good horse. Going forward out of that race, I did note just the first 5 horses upon settling were the first 5 horses home, so I don't know how much that race is going to hold up as a form guide as to who's actually better than the others. I kind of still think the two horses that might be the best going out of it going forward were the two that did actually make up a bit of ground, Platinum Invader and Star Tsar.
He went well from back, Sazar.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah,
well.
Platinum Invader's going to head to the City of Auckland Cup on New Year's Day.
He's $18. He's $18.
That seems very fair.
He killed them in that race last year, didn't he?
It was the rerun race, of course.
Yeah.
Hunter Pence is going to go to the Trentham Stakes, but I could just feel how excited Patrick was today. On that note, Danielle, it's something we don't hear a lot about when we just watch racing on trackside, but that taking horses to the show ring, that mucking around with them, just teaching them manners sometimes refreshing a horse in any way, putting them over the hurdles. With those older horses, it can just help freshen them up a touch mentally, eh?
People do a lot of that. I think it just, as you said, a new lease on life, really. Wakes them up a little bit, wants to get them back in the winning streak.
Well, when he does eventually go over hurdles, he's going to go out
He's
on
gonna know what
first.
he's doing.
I did put that to Patrick today. I said, are you going to start him over hurdles? He said, yeah, we'll give him a crack at some stage,
Sure.
but not at the moment, obviously.
No.
Daryl Bradley, a guy who, if you ask most people to list their top 5 jockeys in the country, he probably wouldn't make a lot of lists.
The Cup's king.
He's a Cup's king. He's ridden
Yeah.
a truckload of winners, Daryl. And he's a good, fun guy.
And he just seems to be coming back, riding in the Cups and winning them at the moment.
Yep.
He's flying.
No, he's doing a super job. So, Daryl, well done to you. 4 Manawatu Cups, and Hunter Pence run 5th in the race the last 2 years. Also at Awapuni, we saw this machine continue again. There was a 2-year-old race, and you may not be surprised. This isn't deja vu. You're not watching the same race from last week or the week before, the week before, the week before, but it's the same set of colours. Here's On the Bubbles as the Tiaka 2-year-olds continue to dominate.
Side of that, and then Nest Egg on the bubble, still in front. Dragon Biscuit starting to try and have a shot at it, and in between them there is Brazen Blue, but on the bubbles gets there second. Maybe Brazen Blue came back to Dragon.
Danielle, I'm not sure there was a lot there left at the line, but he did burn early, and he's had to burn again from the 600. So it was a good performance. He's straight into the Karaka Million. You have an insight into how Tiaka trained their 2-year-olds, and you'll be riding one of theirs in the Karaka Million. What's the secret? What does Jamie do with these horses? Do they all sprint up together? Do they work in strings? Do they take it along quietly? How does it work?
God, I can't give away too many secrets on here, guys. Jesus.
You can tell us later on.
Yeah, I'll tell you later on.
Do you have a ride for Tiaka in the Karaka Million? Do you have one that you're set on now?
I suppose it'll just see what Opie wants to pick out, and then I'll get whatever's after that, maybe.
Quite
He
remarkable.
can't always be right, though.
No, he can't always
No.
be right.
But
Quite remarkably, when we look at this market, Palamos, Sophisticado's obviously theirs, Avanello's one of theirs, On the Bubbles is one of theirs. Kufu is the horse that a lot of people were talking about. He's not at Alizé this Saturday. Well, he wasn't in the nominations today, so I presume he's heading to the Eclipse. Luke, I think there's a long way to go yet. This time of year, the ground's starting to get firm. Maybe some of these horses could get a bit shinny at different stages, but already it's got the feel of a good Karaka Million. There's lots of class in there.
Yeah, a good Karaka Million, but maybe not a great betting proposition. When you look at that market and you see it's that open, and you're still right down the bottom of the page only getting $14, it's hard to get too enthused about backing anything there, though, wouldn't you say?
Well, I agree. I think also that the bookies don't have a clue about this either, and either did Jamie.
Yeah.
I spoke to Jamie today and said, where does this horse sit? He said, I just don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know.
And that's fair enough. I'm not having a crack at the bookies for doing that, because those sort of markets, the form's not exposed.
No,
and
there's not enough data.
There's not enough data, and so they have to run the market to a high percentage, otherwise they get done over, and they're not a charity. So I'm not having a crack there, but
Just
boy,
talking
I wouldn't be having a bet into that market, that's for sure.
I agree. And also, it's a race that can throw up all sorts of upsets. Just talking about the Tiaka 2-year-olds, couple go this Saturday, and then they have another bunch on New Year's Day, and then they also race on the 10th at Alizé. So I had a really long talk to Jamie today, and he said he doesn't know which one's the best one. Do you have a view on which one's the best one?
I think it's too early to say that yet.
Yeah.
And I think it's so hard with their 2-year-olds because they're so educated. Like, they go to the races and they're winning. They know what they're doing. They're there to do it. So it's what progresses on out of the first race into the next one. And
Well, and also Shin Saunders horses week and off, horses come and go at different times. Last year, Cool as a Beal missed a lead-up race, went to a different lead-up race and was still able to win the Karaka Million. Lots in play there before we get to January the 23rd. Good to see good horse back, a horse we might have forgotten about at Awapuni, in Lincoln Falls. He was an outstanding 3-year-old. Here he is pulling right to the outside of the track with the white blaze. and the team at Latter Lodge have needed to be really, really patient with him. On Saturday, that patience paid off.
Hit the front, Cabinos Brave, and then Fiano getting through on the inside, as to Go James, but he's home, and he's home big time here, he's back. Lincoln falls from a very close thing. Cabinos, Go James, and then Fiano back behind.
Coming down the outside of the track very often at Awapuni on Saturday, so good performance from him. Well done to Lisa and the team. It's a hell of a thing to have a horse who is as good as him being set for the Hawke's Bay Triple Crown. Go amiss. A tendon is always a dodgy injury of the horse, and they've had to rehab him. I think Lisa could be in for a very big summer. They just put the brakes on the team after COVID. I think those brakes are now, as we can see, being released. Let's head to Torapa, where one of the stars of the show was Royal Performer, and as we see him here, the former Hong Kong galloper. Unlucky, the Vances have done this before, unlucky last start. This time, Billy Pin made sure he wasn't, and he put a gap in.
Royal Performer got the run along the inside. Royal Performer took over at the 150 from Go Nicholas, Sultan of Swing and Rhaegar, but Royal Performer with the big swing in the weights is racing away. Royal Performer will win it second over, will be Go Nicholas third, Sultan of Swing, both of those game runs under the big...
Look, a horse we don't know too much about. He raced obviously in Hong Kong. He came home to be retired. He was getting a bit jointy. Bob Vance told me today, hey, we've got a paddock here. He doesn't have a paddock in Hong Kong. He's enjoying life. We're going to put him in the Rich Hill Mile, but also a comeback of a different sort from Billy Pin. I spoke to Wuramu yesterday. He said, call me Billy. He said, because people keep stuffing up Wuramu and they call me that. So he likes to be called Billy.
Really?
Yep. And he can ride. He can really ride.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a bad reason to call someone a different name because the other people can't pronounce your actual name. But anyway, Wuramu or Billy, whatever. He's so talented. He's really talented, isn't he? And if you forgive me a moment here, because I know you guys know all about his history, but I don't assume that everybody who's watching the show necessarily will. He's 22 years old and he's talented, but he's blown some opportunities already in his life. Big time. I understand, and this is all just stuff I've read online. I don't know him or anything like that. But so he was basically a teenager in Manarewa, lost a close friend, and as part of the grieving process, did some of this equine therapy that they sometimes do to help people cope with things. Struck up an affinity for horses. Got an opportunity at Tiaka and squandered that through what we're told are behavioural issues, which we don't need to go into or whatever. But then goes from Tiaka to the Shark stable and blows that opportunity eventually as well. Alan Sharrock, well reported as saying he just didn't turn up to work one day, didn't even call him for about 8 days, and then when he did call him, said, hey, I'm just tired of this, I want to do something else. That was about 2 years ago almost. He's back now, he has a 3-year-old son, he's 22 years old. He's, I think, absurdly talented might be overstating it, but I think he's somebody who, if he is focused, has the potential to earn millions and millions of dollars over the next decade. And so the question is whether he does have that dedication, because basically he's got that option in front of him, or the other option, which he's basically been testing the waters on in the last 18 months and apparently hasn't liked, is working for minimum wage, doing really hard work and actually getting nowhere. So he has this talent. I really hope he can fulfill it, but time will tell. I do know for sure that he can ride, Danielle. I love the way he looks on a horse, and he's still claiming 3. Until he wins another 2 races, he's still claiming 3 kilos. And for me, that's just a gift for punters, because I think he's a potential star.
He seems to be in a better frame of mind.
Yeah, I spoke to him yesterday, and he said, look, I had a young son, and it was a difficult thing for me to adjust to, and sometimes it's difficult with partners, and he did go through a phase. But I want to ask you about young riders coming through, because often when they hit claim, they get a bit of hype about them. When seeing Callum Jones is quite rightly getting some hype about him. When you're out there, can you tell, looking at someone, whether they have good balance, whether they know what they're doing? Do you spot that pretty quickly as a senior jockey now?
I think some people have natural ability, and then some people have to work hard at it. So.
Who's the most naturally talented rider you've ever ridden against?
Oh, Owen Patrick.
Yeah.
Just like he could be away for 2 years and come back and hop on a horse, and he's
usually
it's not that easy, but it's that easy for him.
Usually it's about 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months, 4 months, and he's shown that over the years that he can just keep coming back.
What about the kids though? Look, a guy like Callum Jones has come into the industry, and we didn't know him 6 months ago, and he's now ridden a Waikato Cup winner. Do you see some of them and go, well, he or she has more chance of making it than a lot of people do.
Yeah, always. And I think people's attitude towards racing, you know, you can't just, you have a few winners and you think that you're a bit bigger than the game, because the game is always going to be bigger than you, and just what they take in their stride, I suppose, as well.
You mentioned Owen Patrick Bosson. He had 3 wins and a second at Te Rapa on Saturday, backing up from another massive one the week before. This was a peach. He ended up in the 1-1 3 times the other day on favoured horses. Here is the Elephant, who doesn't actually look like an elephant, but runs like a cheetah.
2 lengths away then, and behind these is Osaka. It's Jackal Bomb. Elephant's trying hard, so is Packy Rockstar. The Elephant's starting to get into his work now. Packy Rockstar, but here he goes. Elephant goes up, steps up a grade and still makes it 3 from 3. Elephant too good. Photos for second between Packy Rockstar.
Not easy to do, Danielle, because Packy Rockstar's a proper horse who was on the verge of getting into a railway. This horse having only his 3rd start, so he was a maiden 2 starts ago, and he's come out here and they've come home in 33.6 and he's run past them.
He looked smart. He sort of didn't look like he was going to get past him halfway down, and he put his head down and won convincingly in the end.
He's in the Thornton. Spoke to Emily Brown yesterday and she said, look, we're going to leave him in there because who knows what might happen. He goes, Luke, to January the 10th at Ellerslie, and look, the Thornton's a good race. I don't think Rock on Wood's going to be there. I spoke to Leanne Elliott today. He is coming to Ellerslie on Saturday, so he won't probably go there, but Melody Bell's going to be there. It's a long way from those horses to Melody Bell, but at the moment, the Elephant, all 16.1 hands of him, doing a super job.
He is. He's a horse whose pedigree interests me too, being by a Melbourne Cup winner out of Ticklish, whom we remember was honestly one of the fastest horses I've ever seen race in New Zealand. I think she still holds the 1,000 metre national record. So by a Melbourne Cup winner out of an absolute speedster who would have been a horse of the year if we had Group 1 races over 600 metres. And he's obviously falling somewhere in between. But again, $21 for the Thornton there. Set weights and penalties race. I'm still, you know, I'm still at my stage of life adjusting to change and the fact that the Thornton is set weights and penalties and not a handicap. If it were a handicap, he'd be the sort of horse you'd be jumping on, maybe even at that price. Well, does make it harder though when you're set weights and penalties.
I think they may not go there. I think they're having to throw out the stunts with the nomination. Melody Bell could pull out, things could change. Brown team had a super day the other day. Gone West was really good. He'll go to the Dunstan.
He's a cup source.
He's the other way. He's out of a mare who contested, or didn't contest actually, the Melbourne Cup in Pravda, just with Elephant. Andrew Fowler, his owner, who also owns Melt, of course, he bred the horse. Always wanted to call a horse Elephant, and he just decided this was the one. So he's not big and he doesn't have a weird nose, unlike some of us, but he's called the Elephant, and therefore, a little bit like Tavi Mac, he's probably going to find himself with quite a big fan club. Let's look at the Trainers Premiership with Waikato Equine. It's great to have the vet centre down there who do so much great work, and well, quite staggering. Jamie has one hell of a lead. In fact, his lead is almost as big as yours is on the Jockeys Premiership, Danielle.
I've told him that mine's better at the moment.
10 group and listed races, 1.8 million in stakes just around the corner. But there's also some stars in their own ways on this list, and one of those is Alan Sharrock. His strike rate, Luke, has been fantastic, and he's racing in a smaller stake area, but he's the punter's pal.
He really is, and I heard him interviewed on Mark Clayton's excellent podcast the other day, on the Boys Get Paid podcast, and just saying that he's maybe more than any other time, he's got the depth in his stable. You know, there might not be the absolute superstar there, but you go down, the 10th best horse in his stable is still a really, really good horse at the moment. He's flying.
Talking about colt horses, and Elephant is one, Tavi Mac is another. We lost, not for life, but for the racing arena, one of our icons today. Tiaka Shark retired. He's had problems with his eyes. That's a rarity for horses. You need to have 2 working eyes to race in Australia. He's only got 1 now. Here he is in the BCD Sprint last year, picking up the mitigator and running away with from some very, very good horses. After this, he went to Randwick and gave Jamie one of 2 Group 1s in a day. Danielle, did you ever get a chance to have a spin on him?
No, not even track work.
Would have been nice, wouldn't it?
God, just so fast.
Yeah, so big and so fast and so powerful.
Electric.
In this country, we love a big red, obviously Phar Lap and Bone Crusher being the 2 most famous of them. But Luke, that that version of him, and then the version we saw at Randwick the next start, that's what people want to see. They love that stuff.
Yeah, and as you say, it's a simple word, but it's so true. He was fast. And off a strong pace over a mile, he could rattle off a 200-metre sectional as good as just about any horse, Winks excluded probably, but you know, he had that freakish quality. You know, I'm not saying he's better or worse than Melody Bell, who it's obvious easy to make comparisons, and there's no point in making comparisons, but you know, she's so professional and so sort of tradesperson-like, but he was. I hate even talking about the past tense with Tiaka Shark.
It's happened. So he'll have a lovely home at Tiaka. Danielle, just on horses and their eyesight. In some codes and some jurisdictions, you can race with one eye. You were telling me before you had a pony with one eye. Never bothered him.
Never bothered him. No,
just loved it.
I know it's a little bit different. A pony jumping, you know, like 60-metre fences.
He never walked into a tree or anything like that?
Well, maybe after dark, maybe. But
So, Michael, you're saying you have to have two eyes to race in Australia, but in New Zealand only one. Is that right?
That was the rule for New Zealand galloping.
Yeah.
In harness racing, you're actually allowed to race with one eye full
Right.
stop. So it's the rules are
I
slightly
do remember
different.
there did used to be a.
There's been some very good
There
gallopers.
have been some good
There's actually
one-eyed
been
horses
blind
racing.
gallopers, which is another story altogether. But no,
I can't see how that's
I'm not
possible.
making this up. Look this up on the internet. On the other side of the short break.
Google
I'm
knows
"Right,
everything."
Trust me, I know these things. Seriously, I'm hosting the show here. Everybody's
You
not
made
here.
this up.
I wouldn't lie to you. This is a trust issue. On the other side of this break, we'll talk about the Magic Man and that historic moment coming out of Hawapuni.
I'll give you the number.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Sassenach starting to weave through as well, and right around Mr. Geronimo. Is this going to be the moment? Here's Sassenach coming after the Platinum Spirit. Here's CWJ, the Magic Man, a magic moment. He's done it with a magic ride.
From the sea. Finally, I feel complete. The days of my heart searching for love are over. Now I'm complete.
2-4-5-2 for Chris Johnson. My apologies, I added one to it before. I gave him a 2-4-5-3. Danielle, wasn't that the most Chris Johnson-like of rides to bring up the record?
just amazing. No one would have known he's back there, and he just dashes through.
I know everybody's unique in their own way, but he is a truly unique person. He doesn't say all that much, but as a rider, he must occasionally do things that other riders go, oh, wow, that was pretty good.
You sort of don't know he's around you, and then when you try and move him out of the way, you know he's there.
Yeah.
And he just, he doesn't look like he's got a real extravagant, strong style, but his whip, God, he's just so strong.
He's so good at coaxing a horse to the
Yeah.
line, isn't he? Like, you watch that replay, and I know his whip was on the far side, so you couldn't really see too much, but he, as much as anyone else, can sort of coax a horse without actually having to rely on the whip.
It just looks like he's just idling along, but he's stronger than most people out there.
We were lucky enough a couple of weeks ago to have our good friend Greg O'Connor go out and talk to Chris about his career. He's not a man of many words. He did speak to Tony Lee on Saturday. It was great to see Tony get that live action with him. But here's Greg talking to Chris about the pathway to 2-4-5-2.
Well, first of all, Chris, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I know it's been a wee while coming, but it's been the ultimate goal, hasn't it?
Yeah, for the last year, sort of had the number of wins in sight, so it gave me something to aim for. Been good.
4 decades of riding. We go back to the first of the first 1981 Noble Star, and it was your first ride.
Yep. Doesn't seem that long ago. Seems like yesterday, but obviously 81 year. Had a lot of good times since, and ridden some nice horses, and really got a lot of pleasure out of racing. Yeah.
Ridden for a lot of great trainers. Ned Thistle comes to mind, the Parsons, John and Karen, Dawn and Peter Williams, who you rode great horses like C. Swift and Loader. Gee, there's been some wonderful horse people and some great horses.
Yeah, no, I'd like to thank all the owners and trainers I've ridden for. they've been great supporters of mine and helped me through my career all the way along. And I've been lucky enough to ride some real good horses, and it makes our job easier.
Neil Corbeck, he's another one. The Pitmans, Matthew and Michael, and in recent times with Savvy Cope, it has just been a wonderful ride.
Oh yeah, no, racing's been good to me, and like I say, I've been lucky enough to ride some very good horses, and now it's been great.
Chris, you've had your demons, including a month ago when this record may not have been possible. Tell me how challenging that's been.
Yeah, everyone sort of, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have their odd faults, and I've got mine, but I think I've got it under control at the moment, and I know what I can do and what I can't do. I just got to, keep it right, and hopefully my career will carry on.
Let's talk about that. What's ahead now that you've got the all-time winning record? What does Chris Johnson want to achieve as a jockey, and what motivates you now?
Well, I just still love riding, riding horses, and you never know when the next good one's going to come along. So we go out week out looking for that next champion, and I'll probably just keep riding as long as I can while the body, lets me. Yep.
And of course, your kids, Holly and Jack, they love following you, and they're your biggest fans, along with your manager, Belinda. Yeah,
no, they've been great supporters of mine, and they're growing up a bit now, but they're still great supporters, and pleased for me.
They love being associated with the horses too. They've had a whole lot of fun driving the kids' carts, haven't they, in that other code?
Yeah, I suppose having Belinda as their mother and me as the father, with all the animals around at home, they love animals, so they'll probably end up working with them somewhere along the line.
Well, I speak on behalf of all racing followers and punters, and as you said before, the owners and trainers. Congratulations on this wonderful milestone. You're a legend of our sport, and to get that record is certainly well deserved. Well done.
Bertie, thank you very much. Now, I'd just like to thank all the supporters, and all the support I've had over the years as well. And thanks very much, everyone.
It can be an overused word these days, legend, but yep, CWJ is a legend. Some big numbers there. 24.52, the biggest of them, of course, passing David Walsh, who held that record for a very long time. 136 black type wins, 30 millions in stakes. And look, as Chris would honestly admit, he's wasted some of that on silly stuff. By the way, his 2000s when it came at his mother's birthday. That win on Saturday came on his daughter Holly's birthday, which would have meant a lot to the entire family. And just on that, Luke, he doesn't hide from the fact that he's felt the pressures of life sometimes. He's reacted to them maybe the way he shouldn't have. He could probably have 300 or 400 more wins on the board. But he's also Chris Johnson, and that's all part of the same fabric that's made him the rider he is and the man he is.
People love him because he's so talented, and also his own worst enemy at times, and we're all our own worst enemy at times of our lives as well. So he's this kind of unusual mix, isn't he, of success story and cautionary tale. But I think, unlike any other rider of my lifetime, he engenders loyalty from fans. You talk to somebody who's a Chris Johnson fan or Chris Johnson supporter, and they are the definition of a fan, fanatic. They won't hear a bad word about him or anything like that. And it's so interesting, I find, to hear other people talking about him as much as anything, people closer to him. Greg O'Connor and Marianne Twentyman did a fabulous piece on him a couple of years ago. I tried to find it on YouTube, it's not there, I wish it was. It was great. And it was so interesting to hear people talking about him, even people when they're talking about him having having let them down, being sort of banging their head against the wall, frustrated with him at times. But they're always talking about it with warmth. He's a really unusual person and a unique person in New Zealand racing, a great person to have on the top of that leaderboard that you're eventually going to knock off in your mid-50s, Danielle.
I don't know about that. Try and get halfway.
It must be funny as a younger jockey because no one hides from the fact, no one's pretending Chris is a saint. There's things about Chris Johnson you don't want to replicate in your life, but there's a lot of resilience to do what you do for a job for 40 years.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a long time. And for him to, you know, the issues that he's had to keep coming back, you know,
and he mentioned his supporters there, and of course he did. And sometimes you hear that people say that when they achieve something, it's just a bit of a cliche and that sort of thing. Never is it more true with Chris Johnson, because I think throughout his career, even now, he still has that kind of, even at 56 years old, still has that slight quality of a child lost in a department store kind of thing to him, doesn't he? And all the way he's had people trying to shepherd him in the right direction. And the right direction for him is on the back of a horse, because on the back of a horse, he's absurdly, and I mean it this time, he's absurdly talented. Off the back of a horse.
He has had a lot of great support. Karen and John have been fantastic. Obviously, Belinda's had some tough times with him, but there's still been a lot of softness towards the horses. He's kind to the horses.
He is.
The Oamaru Jockey Club were one of the first people to get behind the Chris Johnson movement towards 2452. They sold 350 supporters hats. 350 supporters hats. Raises another news story out of this weekend in a different way, but also from an outstanding senior rider. Matt Cameron's had 94 black type wins. He announced yesterday, I'm just taking a little bit of time away. I want to get some time away for myself. I'm not in a bad place. I'm just on stale. And here he is, showing that he's still got it. He's ninth on the premiership, of course. This is him coming through in the yellow colours here. And he's an outstanding jockey, but at the moment, I feel like he just feels like he needs a break. Had a good talk to him yesterday, Danielle. He's a mate of yours. And I applaud Matt for being brave enough to say, I need a break, rather than saying, I'm going to start hitting the bottle, or I'm going to become moody, or I'm going to punch someone in the pub. I'm going to take a break and take control of my life, and I'll come back when I feel like it.
I must say there are a few texts go between us that I wasn't very happy, you know, that he was having a little break, but it was his decision, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought that was the best thing for you. If you're not happy in what you're doing, there's no point doing it. Your well-being's the most important thing. And
why were you not happy initially?
Why wasn't he?
Why weren't you happy with him initially?
Just such a good rider. Jockey ranks aren't great.
No,
we
that's
don't
true.
really need to be losing another jockey.
Thin on the ground.
And coming into Christmas, New Year's, for him, I was more so thinking about him, the money that you can be making at this time.
Sure.
I spoke to him about that, and he said, look, I don't want to go there and be a bit part player. I want to be a serious player, and I don't also want to go there and just be dialing it in at Tauranga or New Plymouth. I want to go there and ride well. I'm not going to do that at the moment.
Yeah.
I know you're not allowed to bet, but if you're a betting lady, you'd bet on him coming back, wouldn't you?
I said to him, he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
He definitely will be back. I don't think it was written right, the story about him saying he was retiring.
No,
I don't think it was worded correctly.
I think that message got lost in translation
Yes.
on one of the stories, and that can happen sometimes as a journalist. No one's blaming anybody there. Look, in life, I applaud anybody who can say, look, I'm not happy doing this at the moment. I would rather go have a break and come back another day when I am happy, because that's called taking control of your life.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I'm just sucking up to jockeys because we've got a jockey in the studio or anything, but it's actually I think we as punters forget how tough it is. It's tough on families, it's tough on the body, and it's tough mentally. I mean, I was thinking the other day about how sort of weird it is, almost unique, that as a jockey, as an independent contractor, you can just have the next 2 weeks of income just rubbed out at any time for a careless ride or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
for eating a pie.
Yeah,
you can eat a pie and you can't go to work the next day.
That's exactly right. It's not like it's not like a plumber who carelessly does something doesn't suddenly get shut down out of their business for 2 weeks because they allowed a leak or something like that.
That's a very nice segue into something I want to ask you about, and I think everybody has different opinions on this, and I think it's something which is important is discussed maturely. At the moment in Victoria, they were talking about having whip-free races. I know you're a fan of the potential for the idea of the whip to be taken away from the jockeys. I feel differently about that.
Good.
But why do you think it's something which should be on the table?
Well, first of all, he said it is on the table. NZT are calling for submissions on this, and I think it's great that it's on the table. We have this divide in Australia where Victoria, there are indications they're wanting to phase it out, and New South Wales with Peter Vlandie saying, no, we have to educate the public that the whip actually isn't that bad. Educating the public about that won't work. And I think, Look, I look at this from a couple of ways. You can come at the whip issue from an animal welfare angle, and I've got really no interest for today's purposes in saying too much about that, because you're never going to get agreement on that, on how much the whip hurts a horse. There have been a number of scientific studies, and it's not clear-cut one way or the other. We know horses' skin is
So here's the Melbourne Cup, where Kieran McAvoy's on the second horse. He gets fined for a horse who dropped off the leader at the top of the straight and probably needed a reminder. He got fined $50,000.
I think that was reduced to 25, but okay.
Is taking away from the fact whether it makes them go faster or not, Danielle, would you feel safe going onto the track for a race or even track work or trials if you didn't have a whip?
No, because I think it's a guidance thing, especially when you're on babies. You know, you help them guide around the corners and things like that. Like, what are you going to have in your hands? Your reins aren't always, you know, useful.
So taking away the fact of horses running faster or not, you need it as a safety tool.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, well,
I'm cool with that.
That's how I've always felt about it. I've always felt I wouldn't say to an Uber driver, you have to go to work and drive around without a seatbelt on. So therefore, I feel uncomfortable saying to a jockey, you have to do a job without a whip.
No, sure, but how many times the whip is used in a race? You know, we saw Kieran McAvoy there hitting Tiger Moth 21 times up the home straight in the Melbourne Cup. He's not doing that for safety reasons.
No,
he's doing that because there's this
exception.
perverse incentive to overuse the whip, because he got fined 25 or 50,000 or whatever. He's within half a length of the winner. The difference between first and second prize money is about $3 million. Yeah. It's don't hate the player, hate the game. He did the right thing for his owners by overusing the whip in that case. But what I guess, if I could just say this about it, as I say, putting aside the animal welfare concerns for one moment, look at it from a financial point of view for the industry. There is a non-zero percentage of the population, we don't know what it is, but I'll tell you it's not zero and it's increasing, that will simply never get involved in racing as punters or owners because they find the concept of hitting horses to make them run faster for our entertainment abhorrent. And so why do we not try to include those people by not putting that barrier between us and them? And the arguments for the use of the whip remaining, I just don't think outweigh that disadvantage.
I'm not disagreeing
Safety.
with you. I'm an animal lover, but I'm not going to take off anybody for safety reasons. And more importantly, there's a consensus that the general public don't like this or don't like that or don't like this. I don't like yachting. They're not going to stop holding it. But more importantly, there's some really grotesque things happen in sport. I've played rugby. MMA is grotesque. Boxing is grotesque, and they're not going to stop holding them because people are getting their brains damaged. So they're not going to stop doing that.
False equivalence.
But
it's nothing remotely
MMA
similar.
is becoming the biggest sport in the world outside soccer, and it's becoming that, and people don't care if people are getting hurt.
No, because but there's a percentage of the population who actually relish that and enjoy that. What I'm saying here with racing is that you're excluding a percentage of the population who are repulsed by the use of the whip, and we could remove it, and those people would potentially be brought into the game as owners or punters or whatever. And what would we lose if that happened? I'm not saying just ban it overnight. You can retain it for safety reasons, you can phase it out over time. But what do you lose by at least setting off on that path where we wouldn't have the use of the whip? Tell me an argument for retaining the whip.
I'll tell you the argument. I've sat behind horses who have bolted, and I'm a lot stronger than most jockeys because I'm 30 kilos heavier and I have a lot more weight to play with. It is terrifying.
Yep.
And the first time some poor little girl gets a horse bolt on her at Greymouth and goes over the outside fence, I don't want to be going to her funeral.
So they can carry it and they can use it for safety reasons in those cases. But when they're using it to make the horses run faster, that's different.
That's different from saying ban the whip. I think ban the whip is a bad idea. Safety, using the whip and being able to take it as a safety tool is an important idea.
Yeah, I agree.
But we can discuss this for a lot longer. What we'll do, it's important, and by the way, those submissions are open at NZTA. You can find that on their website. We'll take a short break and come back and talk about a jockey who we think one day could be the leading jockey in the country if she makes it to 50 in the Still Road.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Leads a length and a half on Trivia, is now being called upon by Danielle Johnson. Here's Humbucker coming after the Silver Lake on Trivia. Humbucker's trying to pick it up on Trivia, just in front. It's 900 for Danielle Johnson.
Only a few months ago, win 900 for one of our studio guests tonight, Danielle Johnson. Now well on the way to 1,000. They're big numbers. When you start your career, you don't really think you'll be getting to 1,000, but you're charging to 1,000.
980.
Yeah.
And that I only just looked the other day. It's sort of something I don't really follow. My career
Oh,
wins.
really?
No.
Okay.
I sort of just keep going by my way and win as many races as I can. And it was actually my mum who said, you're close to 900. We got it.
Well,
in the Tiaka colours.
Luke had an interesting stat. He said you're only about 160 or maybe 200 wins off your dad's career, and your dad was a fantastic jockey. Just one of my favourite jockeys ever.
You made the point though, wins in New Zealand though, and he
New
did spend a
Zealand
fair bit of
wins,
time
yeah.
overseas.
960 odd or 980 or something close to that. A lot of black type wins there. We're going to show two of your first two Group 1s, which were on Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
These are both at Trentham. To people who don't ride, why do Group 1s matter so much? I know they're worth a bit more money, but you've actually ridden a Karaka Million winner who's worth more than all your Group 1s put together. Why does this matter to a jockey?
They're just races that you watch. Well, for me, I watched as a child, and they're the biggest races on the scale, and it's what you dream to win. And
Does
when
it-
I finally do it,
Does it
just-
legitimise your career when you're talking to other jockeys? Because if you don't have a Group 1, you've always got that
you don't
little
have
thing.
it to say, you know. You can't tell them that you've won a Group 1.
So that's obviously Sugar, who won this
This is
race
Sugar.
twice for you, the Captain Cook. And
First Group 1.
you've had some great stables behind you. Peter and Dawn are big supporters of yours. Obviously, Stephen, now Jamie's a great supporter of yours. You've had a lot of very high-powered stables. You've ridden quite a bit for Andrew Murray. You've had a lot of support.
I started off going down south with Peter and Dawn Williams, and tell you what, Dawn definitely hardened me up. I think it's what I needed when my parents sent me away.
She gave you a telling off?
Oh, she was tough. Very, very tough. I've got thick skin now,
Yeah.
but they were great. And
Do you need to have thick skin being a female jockey because it's harder when you start? The people say the little girls do this and the little girls do that. Do you need to have that thicker skin to kick off, or are those days behind us now?
oh, I think everyone racing needs thick skin because there's so many opinions around what you're doing. You can't take on board everyone's opinion, and most of them are nasty. So you have to just brush it off and continue on.
You rode John Fenn to win the Karaka Million. I know that the Karaka Million's a night close to your heart. Here he is, he's in front, obviously, and he's not the best horse you've ever ridden, but I know this is a meeting you love. You're very close to Sir Peter Vella. He's a guy you have a lot of respect for. It must have been a huge buzz, and then the fact it's worth $1 million.
I would say, and whether it's because of the money, I'm not sure, but that would probably be the highlight of my career, yes. And I openly say that to everyone. $1 million race is pretty massive, and probably also doing it on Sir Peter's big night, who, you know, he's taken me to Ascot, he's taken me to Portugal, he's been a big part of my life.
Is it our best race night now, the Karaka Million? Is it the night you look forward to the most?
It's in everyone's calendar. It's just the best night of the year.
So this is 3 or 4 years ago. Are you a better rider now? Because you had an incident, the big break there, are you in Sir Peter in the car park at Ascot where he famously holds his parties.
Lots of champagne goes down your throat there.
We've got some other photographs here of you with the family because obviously you're lucky enough to come from a racing family. Your mum was an amateur rider,
Yes.
Annabelle obviously. She rode some winners
In Singapore and Malaysia.
Yep, so there's mum.
This is where I got my style from.
Oh really?
Look at her.
We've got some more shots of you getting your style at Pony Club. There's your dad there. So this is you and your dad. I think you told me this is the last time Peter was on a horse.
I was talking to Mum about it, and I do believe it could have been the last time he rode a horse. And that was getting the boots out of the garage just to hop on that one horse.
And that's brother Nick?
Brother Nick, who's in Sydney. He's marketing and sales. I think he took most of the brains.
Now I'm not trying to be horrible. That's a cute picture. You actually haven't changed much from that. That's pretty cute.
Still a baby face.
So you're old enough to remember your dad riding Sunline?
No, hold on. That's a baby. Actually, that's a baby face.
Well, that looks like a grubby little child that's been eating chocolate.
So that's you at the races, circa 2 years old, maybe?
It looks like it, yeah.
So when you grew up in a family with your mum having been an amateur rider and a trainer and your dad being a great jockey, was that always going to happen to you?
I thought at the start I wanted to be a... well, I don't actually really know what I
A
wanted
model,
to
but you were
be.
too short.
My legs are very long, actually.
Oh, okay.
Come on, don't be nasty. Well, to be honest, I was very bad at school. Very bad at school.
Badly behaved or bad at it?
Everything. Just terrible at school. So I didn't learn much, and I thought the easiest option was to ride horses, and I've loved it ever since.
A couple of years ago, you had a really horrific fall at Ruakaka and you broke your shoulder. You told me at the time you were thinking about giving up, and I didn't believe you. How close did you get?
I think it's just the thought that goes through your head. At the time when you're going to get an operation, you've got a plate in your shoulder and you think, why do you need to get beaten up and go through operations for a job? But it's what I love, and I don't think I was ever going to really give up. I had a good year on the sidelines though.
Did that help freshen you up? You spoke about Matt Cameron earlier. Did it help give you some perspective or just get you away from riding and freshen you up about life?
Just gave me a freshen up and a different attitude towards racing, which I hope is what Matt does, and I think it will help him, and I think it definitely helped me.
You've got a new partner. I think most people in racing know that you and Jamie Richards are a couple now. He has an unbelievable work ethic. Has that changed the way you go about your week?
Absolutely. Jamie's work ethic's rubbed off on me, and I love going to the races. I love getting up for track work, and I just love working now.
So do you think you're
Not that I ever didn't love working, but when someone in the house is working is very hard, I suppose it rubs off on you that you have to.
But are you riding better? Do you feel like you're more in command of what you're doing at the moment? Because you're an awfully long way clear on the premiership. Like you must be riding well.
Yeah, I'm also getting on good horses. Like I started my season well when it took Opie a little while to get his weight down, so I got on, I was getting on the best horses, and that opens opportunities to ride for more stables, and you're in demand.
Okay, you head to Ellerslie on Saturday. Sapir is in a Group 1. As you mentioned, Sir Peter Vella has been one of your mentors. I know it would mean the world to you to ride her to win the Zabeel.
Yes, that would be a highlight. She ran a nice second the other day, and I think she'll improve a lot from that run. Her work on Saturday was super.
Is she a hard horse to ride?
She's just busy.
Right.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Just full blown, like you.
She's like me?
Yes, just busy.
I'm not going to make the obvious joke there. We'll stay right away from that. What's the horse for the viewers at home to watch over the summer? What's one you're looking forward to getting
Very
back on?
looking forward to riding in Trivier.
Yeah.
Her trial at Tiara was super. Yeah, I think she's going places.
If I said to you, you're 44 wins clear in the premiership, you've never won a premiership, you could win a Group 1 between now and the end of the season, or win the premiership, but you can't have both. What would you have?
Oh God, that's very hard.
Be honest.
I've always said I didn't want to win the premiership just with, everyday wins. Like I want to be the premier jockey. I want to be winning Group 1s.
So you want both?
I want both. I'm very greedy, but no, I can't answer that because I want to win Group 1s. That's why I'm out there.
It's a good way to be. Thank you for joining us. I know you said you were going to be nervous. You've been fantastic.
I'm not good in front of the camera.
And you said you had nothing to say, and you didn't stop talking.
You spoke the whole time.
Well, you get me going about the whip. I could have given you 5 minutes of angry content more about the bang.
Are you looking forward to a horse over the summer? Have you got one on the black book that you're looking forward to backing, or is it just Levante? Are you going to be a Levante T-shirt on New Year's Day or something?
Oh, look, I don't want to get carried away about Levante, but you talk about the greatest horses of all time. You got Farlap, Tarlac, Carbine, Winks. Levante. In all seriousness, no, I don't have a horse to follow. But as I said before, I think maybe back at Wiramu Pin at all times. I see he's got a ride at Matamata in a couple of days' time for an Andrew Campbell horse that comes back from the Sandown Guineas. That's the sort of form line with a 3 kilo claim that I like anyway.
Mate, it's great to have you back on trackside. Danielle, good luck. Safe riding over the summer, and good luck winning the premiership. I really hope you do. Thanks for watching us on a Monday night. If you're watching us online overseas, Merry Christmas from the team that bring you weigh in. We'll be back next Monday to discuss Boxing Day.